It's a lot like when you knowing where you were when somebody died or when a very horrible thing happened in the United States, where you know where you were sitting when that happened. It is etched in my soul, the day and that first week I was at the children's home. Even though things were really bad at home when I was a child, they were scary, they were unpredictable, there was violence, there was neglect, horrible neglect. That was familiar to me. That's what I knew. And so when I went to the children's home, even though it was awesome, I was fed, I had people around me that weren't hurting me, nobody yelled, nobody screamed, nobody hit. I got to play and be a kid. It was still, I longed to be home with my family. There's such loneliness in that when you're out of the familiar, even when the familiar is really horrible. It is a very strange place to be when you're surrounded by a whole bunch of people and feel completely alone. And that was truly some of the loneliest times of my life, is feeling like I had absolutely no one. Feeling like you wanted to please these people, and I so desperately wanted them to be in my life forever and be my parent and the grandparents to my children. But that wasn't the way the story was written. That's not how it happened for me. I don't think it really hit me that I was going to be alone again when I went to college until the first night in the dorm, and it was very quiet. It was very, very similar being in that dorm by myself, that same lonely, knowing you have absolutely no one. And so going into college was very, very similar to that day and that first week of being at the children's home, that same gap in my heart that was just full of just aching loneliness and feeling desperately like I wish somebody would just be with me and be in my life forever. It took a lot of grief and processing and really time just really with the Lord for Him to remind me that I was His. I'd been His daughter all along. He'd been my dad all along. I would love for every person to know their value in the Lord, because the word says that He sets the lonely into families. I think that family is the family of God. Saving Grace is a place for young women that are homeless or facing homelessness or aging out of foster care. But it's not just a room with a bed. We set up a unique and beautiful thing so that our girls would truly have the greatest opportunity possible to thrive in their adulthood. We take the time it takes. We don't have a 6 or 9 month program or a 1-year program. It is as long as they need. I think about when our girls come in and how brave they are. They're walking into something that they have never experienced. Recently, we had a girl that came into the program who wouldn't sleep on her bed because it was so familiar for her to sleep on the floor. They work so hard to overcome so much while they're in our program. We provide 3 mentors for each girl when they come in, and those women mentor that girl for life. And that sounds like the sweetest thing ever, but it's a difficult thing to do because relationships are very, very difficult for our girls. We often say that if you're going to mentor, you need to roll up your sleeves and get ready for your hands to be dirty and your heart to be broken. And we see that time and time again. But then we see young women that have graduated from our program having lunch with mentors and asking them to walk them down the aisle when they get married, or they're there when they give birth to their first child. That is one of the most beautiful things. And that is, again, where God has set the lonely in families with what we do at Saving Grace. You know, being a mom all by itself is tough. It's not a gig for wimps. It's hard. When I think about even in my own childhood and then young adulthood as a mother, I just didn't have anybody to watch, to glean from, to even learn how to be a mom. The other piece of that, though, is when we've experienced trauma, we project trauma. We hurt others with that. We don't mean to, but we do. And so giving these young women a place to heal before they become moms, because we want them to break the cycle of poverty for generations to come, but we also want them to break the cycle of abuse and neglect. Watching them with their own kids is a little bit like watching my children take their first steps. It's a really beautiful thing.